Now, eventually, I was going to hold off and let this talk be for tomorrow. But after some of the news in which I just read and just got, I'm very afraid that the Colts are falling into the NFL's trap. Now, before I get into this and all of the things that I have to say, talking about the team and why I do not like the route in which they're taking with running back Jonathan Taylor, I want to preface this by saying I absolutely love the Indianapolis Colts offseason. I love their draft, getting Julius Brents, doing everything they did, drafting Anthony Richardson, getting out of quarterback purgatory, getting all those bridge quarterbacks. They finally said we're done with that. We're not doing that anymore. We're going to get a guy who we believe also bringing in Shane Steichen. We saw what he did with Jalen Hurts. I talked about this already, but doing that and not saying we're going to settle in mediocrity. I think that is a big step. Understand that I absolutely love that defense. I think they'll be good once again this year when I talk about the Colts. But when you take that chance, in Anthony Richardson, I talked about, if he reaches his ceiling, he can be something we've never seen before. I'm not comparing him to Cam Newton. I'm not comparing him to Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson, Randall Cunningham, Dante Culpepper, Donovan McNabbs. No. This is something we've never seen before. I want to emphasize that because I don't think a lot of people realize just the freak that has entered the NFL. And he's not a project. We have to stop saying Anthony Richardson is a project. I think that's first and foremost. I think that with the film that we've already saw, with the 2 preseason games, and yes, it's preseason, we don't want to swing one way and say he's a great player or a bad player, but I do think we can look at the footwork, we can look at the mechanics, and some of the things with accuracy. Now, he didn't play in the second preseason game, but with some of those joint practices and some of the things we've seen thus far from Anthony Richardson, and especially in that first preseason game, he had the pick, but then he bounced back. Alec Pierce, if he would have caught that touchdown, I think things could have been so different. But I'm afraid that Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow have thrown off the entire NFL. And you say, why, when I talk about this running back conversation, why do I always point to Joe Burrow and why do I always point to Patrick Mahomes? That's because those are my top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL. I think it's Patrick Mahomes, and then I think it's Joe Burrow is 1A and 1B, and then I think it's a drop-off, and a very far drop-off to the rest of the guys in the NFL. So we see that, okay, yes, they have Joe Mixon. I think at a point in time, Joe Mixon was an unarguable top 10 running back in the league. People don't want to look at that. Isaiah Pacheco, Darrell Williams, Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We can name the backs who were in the backfield for the Kansas City Chiefs. Don't think because Patrick Mahomes, yes, he had Tyreek Hill. Yes, he had Travis Kelce. Yes, he had all of his guys. And even now, they run a lot of West Coast things within that offense. Now, it's going to be interesting to see with the loss of Eric Bieniemy, how do things change? But this is a team that wants to run the football. They're not throwing 50-yard bombs to Valdez-Scantling or Rashee Rice all games this year. I can guarantee you that. And it's a balance. So I think it's funny when we talk about running backs and Jonathan Taylor, because not only have you granted him the access to now seek a trade, I thought that Jim Irsay, looking at how he and Chris Ballard were handling the situation, I think that they were very firm in their stance. And I think they're still firm in their stance, but they have to see what's out there. Just really entertaining what could possibly be brought back for a guy like Jonathan Taylor. Now, from what I've read, the Indianapolis Colts are seeking first-round picks, or the equivalent, probably like 2 second-round picks or a couple of third-round picks mixed in with the second. They're seeking a first-round pick or picks that equate to a first-round pick, if you really get what I'm saying right there. But I talked about this. I said, if you want to trade a guy, and if he's not that valuable, what is the compensation for him? If you don't think Jonathan Taylor is that valuable, why would you ever want a first-round pick back? Why would you want the equation of a first-round pick? Why would you want 2 seconds? Why would you want 2/3 in 1 second? Why would you want that if he doesn't really matter to the organization? And I say that they're falling into the trap because it's just like a relationship. A lot of people, they're going to say, well, you don't really need a girlfriend. Yes, you do. You just don't. You think you can get one somewhere else, so you have an illusion of options. I think that the Indianapolis Colts, They have an illusion of options at that running back position. We can go right here. We can talk about their running back core. Zach Moss, a pretty good back. I love what he did at Utah. Like him in the NFL. He's not Jonathan Taylor, and that's no knock against him. Evan Hall, I like him coming out of college. He's not Jonathan Taylor. Deion Jackson, these guys aren't Jonathan Taylor. And I'm very scared because Anthony Richardson, yes, I talked about him. Yes, I think a lot of things can go good, but yes, I think a lot of things can go bad. And if you don't have a Jonathan Taylor drawing guys into the box, getting those one-on-ones with the Michael Pittman, with a Josh Downs, with the Alec Pierce, all of your guys on the outside, we know about the tight ends, Jelani Woods, Mo Alley Cox. If you don't have that threat in the backfield, now, okay, we're going to sit in cover 3. We're going to sit in cover 2. We're going to run those 2 high safety sets. We can man you up. We can do anything we want. It doesn't matter because the run game is not the same. And I think that with Anthony Richardson, also with his legs, they're going to use him in read option. They're going to use him in quarterback design runs. But it's not the same if you don't have Jonathan Taylor. I'm not biting down as hard on that read option play. I'm not really looking for the give. If I know you're the biggest threat in the run game, if I'm a defensive end, that's music to my ears. If I'm seeing you and you got Evan Hull in the backfield, you got Zach Moss in the backfield, and you're handing that, and I see you and I see your hands in the handoff, you're not fully committed to handing the ball to the running back, I'm not biting down. I'm sitting there right there, and then you're going to give it to the running back, and then my defensive tackles are going to stuff it. And I think that I absolutely love the receiving core. I do want to say that one of the better ones, I think, because they complement each other. Now, the question is Michael Pittman a true number 1 receiver, or is he a high-end number 2, kind of like a T. Higgins? But I think T. Higgins is kind of a 1, so it's tricky when we talk about number 1 receivers with this team. But Michael Pittman, he's the leader of the core. I really, really like him. Now, when I talk about the offensive line for this team, I want them to prove to me that last year was an anomaly. Even with Quentin Nelson, Big Q, I want them to prove to me that they are the team that I saw a couple years ago with the offensive line core. So I'm still sitting there. I'm not going to say it's the same team I saw last year. I do think they have some pretty solid pieces, and I think that they will be a solid offensive line. But I do have to see it at the end of the day. And I think that everything can be so simple if you bring back Jonathan Taylor. I talked about this offense, and I said that with an Anthony Richardson, with a Jonathan Taylor, everything you can do, running the play action, heavy vertical scheme, all of that makes sense with Jonathan Taylor. Without Jonathan Taylor, I don't know what makes sense, because do you want to drop back 30 to 40 times a game with Anthony Richardson in year 1? Gardner Minshew's not the guy. They've already said that. Shane Steichen has already said that. So you think about it and playing to your strengths. I think playing to your strengths, we'll be running some of those wide zone schemes. We'll be letting Anthony Richardson get on the move. I don't think it's just dropping back in regular pass pro. I do not think that. So yes, I love the defense. Yes, I think they'll give opportunities for Anthony Richardson. But you're looking at this and you're saying, we don't need Jonathan Taylor. And like I said, it really baffles me. I don't see how the Colts think that with a it would be different if it was a quarterback who's already proven, who can elevate his guys. I think Anthony Richardson can get to that level, but I haven't seen it just yet, so I want to sit and be patient and wait. But it would be different if you had a plethora of receivers. Now, I said I like the receiving core, but it's not a group of multiple elite guys. It's not a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins and a Tyler Boyd. There's some young guys who still have some things to prove, but they have talent. So this is a team that wants to run the football. And I think that how can you tell me you want to run the football, you want to protect their young year 1 QB, and then you do something like this? And then you want the first round pick back. Colts fans, I really want to know down below in the comments, where do you sit with this? Because I think that if you're one of the guys who don't care about running backs, then you really don't care. But I want you to pay attention and really listen to what I'm saying and listen to how some of these teams are really falling into this trap. I think it's gotten to a point. Now, if you want to move off of Jonathan Taylor and it were the offseason, if you had a trade package set up, I would understand it. But I just don't see the fact that you're looking for first-round picks or the equivalent to a first-round pick with multiple other picks. I just don't see where you're trying to go with this. I truly don't. And I think that even if you want to draft a running back in the 3rd, the 4th, 5th round next year, something like that. Now, you just got Evan Hull. He's a young guy. But looking at everything, it has to be then. Address that in the offseason. Address that at the trade deadline. Why are you doing it right now? I wouldn't put Anthony Richardson out there. Without Jonathan Taylor, I truly wouldn't put Anthony Richardson out there. And they say the best way to learn is to play football. I fully understand it. But I'm not putting him in situations where he has to drop back 30 to 40 times a game just yet. That's where I sit on that. What do you guys think? Have the Indianapolis Colts fell into the trap that running backs are not needed? Is it an illusion of options? Like I said, there's ways to get a running back. And I say you talk about it with the relationship. A lot of people say they don't need a relationship, or the fact that they don't need this relationship because they think they can get another one. And then you don't get another one. A lot of teams, they don't value running backs. They're not going to pay a running back $10 to $15 million a year, but I bet you they want one. I bet you they need one. It's just, where can you get it? Yes, you can get it in the draft. Yes, you can find a diamond in the rough. Yes, you can find an undrafted free agent. But I don't think the Colts are in that position right now. And that's where I stand on it with that. I'm very confused right now. I'm worried, truly, with Anthony Richardson. Like I said, I love him. I love the ceiling. I love what he is as a passer right now. Has a lot of room to develop, and I think he can. But I just wouldn't do it in year one without Jonathan Taylor.